Talk to your parents and try to get them to invest in paying for you to go through the SAT study and prep course, which will also increase your scores. Now that prep course can be anywhere from several $100s to up to $2,500. It's not cheap, but guess what? You need to let your parents know that if you pay this $1,000 for the SAT prep course, it may actually save you $20,000 on the back end. Because if my score goes up as a result of enrolling in this prep course, it's likely to reduce the amount of money you're going to have to pay for me by tens of thousands of dollars. Getting into college ain't the problem. We're all going to get in because college is a business of making money off you. But you have to make sure that you hustle the college like the college hustles you. The question is, are you going to get into your colleges of choice? Or are you going to get into the ones you want to go to? That's the question. As a simple rule of thumb, you need what? Good grades or good SAT scores. If you got both, good grades and good SAT scores, you'll probably have colleges coming to look for you. Does Umar Johnson live here? Yes, he does. Well, I happen to see his SAT scores from the college boards, and out of a perfect 24, your son got an 1800. We don't have enough African-American males at my predominantly white college, and if he's willing to come, we're going to give him a full scholarship as well as a living stipend, so he'll have some change in his pocket. Remember, particularly for the males, most of us are either in jail, at the cemetery, or trying to become a damn rapper or an athlete. Because of that, colleges are starving for black males. So if you're a black male with decent grades and somewhat respectable SAT scores, colleges will come and find you. And for sisters, it's not too much different. SAT is a 24. You get half of that, a 12. You'll get into a halfway decent college. You get an 18. You're going to keep the interest of a lot of colleges. You get a 2,000. They'll come looking for you. Make sure you prepare. Don't take it cold turkey. Every grade you've earned from the first day of 9th grade to the last grade of 12th is going to be sent along with your college application. So for my freshmen and my sophomores, please don't waste your first 2 years of high school goofing off, because they'll see those grades too. And the difference between you getting in where you want to be as opposed to where you may have no choice but to be may have been your freshman and sophomore grades. Remember, when you apply to college, 12th grade isn't done yet. So 11th grade will be the last full year of grades that they see. And when you apply to college, make sure you go with the early deadline instead of the late deadline. What's the early deadline? November. What's the late deadline? February and March, if you want to start the following fall at your particular school. It amazes me the amount of black folk who always get their applications in at the late deadline, February and March. Why did you disqualify yourself from potential scholarship money? Because you was too lazy to get your applications in on time. Colored people's time, CPT. Why have you taken out a lot of unnecessary loans? Get them in early. November is your deadline. How many schools should we be applying to? No less than 5, no more than 15. 12 is a good number. 12 is a good number. How do you break those 12 schools down? 4 groups of 3. First 3 schools are your dream schools. These are the schools that you always wanted to attend because for whatever reason you've always been in love with that particular university. You get 3 of those. They're dream schools. Why? Because number 1, it's a long shot to get in, and number 2, if you do get in it, your parents may not necessarily be willing to pay your way through because they're more expensive. Then you have 3 local schools. What are local schools? Schools in your particular city and state that you apply to just in case you don't get into any of your schools out of the city or state. Then you have 3 reality schools. These are 3 schools that are out of your state that you meet the criteria for. They're not dream because you can afford it. They're not dream because you have the SAT that they require. They're not dream because you have the grades that they require. 3 reality-based, 3 dream, 3 local, and 3 boondocks. What do I mean by boondocks? 3 schools that don't have any black students. Why do I want you applying to colleges with absolutely no black students? Because it increases your likelihood of getting in and getting scholarships. If you're applying to schools that got a lot of black students, like universities in the middle of Atlanta, the chances of you getting scholarships because you're African American is not very high, because Atlanta got all the black people they need. But if you apply to schools up in the New England section of America, Connecticut, Massachusetts, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, Utah, places like that, up in Atlanta in the hills where there's no black folk, even if your SAT scores is not as high as they want them to be, you might still get money. Don't be committed to only going to school in the big city. If you're willing to go to school out away from the big city in rural areas, it increases your chance of getting your education paid for. And how do you decide where you're ultimately going to go from the schools you get accepted to? Whoever gives you the most money. It amazes me the amount of high school seniors who turn down full scholarships just because I don't want to be there. So you're going to spend a greater part of your life paying back loans where you had a free education because you didn't want to be there? I could care less whether you want to be there or not. You're not going to college to stay there forever. You're going there for 4 years to get your bachelor's, and then when you're done, you're going to go right back and get your doctorate or your master's degree. We do not take time off after high school between college, and we do not take time off from our bachelor's to our master's. In fact, you could cut the master's program out by graduating magna or summa cum laude. If you graduate magna or summa cum laude from undergrad, you will be able to apply directly to a doctorate program. You can skip the 2 or 3 year master's. The reason why so many of us had to settle for master's is because we didn't have high enough grades that would allow us to apply directly for a doctorate. What else are you going to need when you apply to college? Letters of recommendation. 2 of your high school teachers are going to have to write you letters of recommendation endorsing your application. But you got to have grades that are respectable enough for the high school teachers to want to write you a letter. If you're running around with a whole bunch of C's, D's, and F's, you can't expect me to put my name on a paper, destroying my reputation because you thought high school was a joke. So don't be surprised if your grades stink. If you go to certain teachers and say, can you write me a letter of recommendation? They say no. Don't get mad at them. Get mad at you. Because if you're always late to my class, failing my test, doing poorly, or being disrespectful, even if you're a bright child, I'm not going to endorse you. Why? Because if you're graduating this year and I endorse you and you end up on academic probation and you get kicked out, and now she comes next year and I write her a letter and sign it, guess what? It means nothing. My word is no longer good at that university because you failed me. And now everybody else coming after you have to suffer because you let me down. So people writing letters of recommendation have to be very careful. When you ask your teachers for letters of recommendation, ask them, can they write you a strong one? You don't want any letter, you want a strong one. A poorly written letter of recommendation is no letter at all. And guess what? Teachers won't even tell you that they're not going to give you a strong one. Remember, letters of recommendation get mailed directly to the college by the teacher, so you better be able to trust who you're asking to write you a letter. Basketball coaches don't matter. Pastors and imams don't matter. After school job bosses don't matter. They want core subject teacher letters of recommendation. Now, if you want to throw in an honorary 3rd letter from your basketball coach or the school's principal, that's fine. Nothing's stopping you from putting a 3rd in your packet, but they want to see 2 from core subject area teachers. Grades, SATs, letters of recommendation, and your personal statement. Personal statement is the most important thing that's going to go on your application fee. That's right, you got to write a 1 or 2 page statement telling them why you want to come to that particular college and study. What should be in your personal statement? Why you want to go, what you're going to study, and how they know you're going to finish. Why do you want to go, what you're going to study, and how they know you're going to finish. My name is Umar Johnson. I want to come to Millersville University because I've always wanted to be a psychologist since I was a young child. I've done my research and I discovered that Millersville University is ranked number 50 out of the top 150 mid-sized schools for psychology in the United States by U.S. News and World Report. I discovered that 2 of your psychology professors have received national commendations and research grants for their work in child development. I'm one of the first in my family to be given an opportunity to go to college, so this is something that I take extremely seriously. And if you give me the opportunity to come to Millersville University, I can guarantee you that I will be an asset to your college. Not I want to go there because I like the Q dogs there. Not because I want to go there because my grandmother was a Delta. Not I want to go there because it's my favorite football team or my favorite basketball team. You put something ridiculous like that in your personal statement, and it'll definitely go in the trash. Make sure you get an adult who knows how to read and write to help you with your letter. Because if you make a typo on that personal statement, it goes in the trash. You don't know where a comma goes. You don't know when to start a new sentence. You don't know when to indent. You don't know when to use a semicolon, and it goes in the trash. You misspell one word, and it goes in the trash, because if you can't get the college application right, how am I sure you're going to get anything else right in the school? Why do so many of us get to college and never finish? Is it because we can't do the work? No. The reason why the retention rate for African American men and women in college is so low is because many of us don't have the discipline to finish. And when you get to college, your mother and father won't be there to wake you up at 8 o'clock to make sure you're at that 9 o'clock class. So if they're dragging you out the bed now in high school, I'm a little concerned about your chances of finishing in college. You have to get up on your own and get to that class. And there's a decision that you all are going to have to make in this room. What is that decision? Whether you're going to stay in state or go out of state. You know, if you go out of state, your tuition cost is probably going to double or triple. You have to decide if it's worth it. Maybe you've always wanted to go to UCLA. Maybe you've always wanted to be at the University of Florida. Maybe you always wanted to come to the University of Pennsylvania. But is it worth it? For some of you, it may be. I got accepted to Morehouse right here in Atlanta. I wanted to go, but I couldn't afford the out-of-state tuition, so I stayed in Pennsylvania and went to Millersville. That was the decision I made. For you, it may really be important for you to go to the college of your dreams and take out that extra loan money. If you want to go out of state, you better make sure your grades and your SATs are strong. Don't make your parents take out loan money that they and you are going to have to pay back for the rest of your lives because you wanted to go to a special school, but you didn't have special SAT scores to help it out. In-state or out-of-state? For my freshmen and sophomores, what should you be doing? You should be looking at the college application brochures right now. Why should you be looking at college application brochures as a freshman and a sophomore and you're not graduating for 2 more years? Because you need to know what the minimum basic acceptable SAT score and GPA is in order for you to apply. In order for you to apply. Because guess what? You have no business applying to a college that you don't even meet criteria for. Don't assume that because you have a high school diploma or will be earning one that you automatically qualify as a student in that particular place. Some colleges won't want 2.5, 3.5. Some want perfect 4.0s, 2.75. Some colleges want 3 credits of math. Some want 4 credits of science. Some want 2 credits of language. Just because you have a diploma don't mean you have the application criteria necessary to get into that school. And ladies, do me a favor. Don't get up there. Get a full scholarship like some people I knew. Get pregnant. Have to drop out. And you had a full ride through college, but because you didn't have sexual discipline, you had to give it up. Gentlemen, don't get to college. Get somebody pregnant. And now you have to drop out because you have to take care of your child because you didn't practice sexual discipline. College is 13th grade. It is the high school with beds. The same people you see in high school, you're going to see them there. And you got to have the discipline to be able to be successful and to make it. That's right. Not to mention the sexually transmitted disease rate at the universities are just as ridiculous as it is in our high schools. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, AIDS, scabies, warts, crabs, HPV, herpes, which you don't get rid of. You will have it for the rest of your life until you're lucky. So hopefully nobody's here sexually active. You wait until you get married, but if by chance you can't, I suggest you protect yourself because there's stuff out here that you can't get rid of. This coming Wednesday marks the beginning of another year of Black History Month. Black History Month was started in the 1920s by one of the first black men to get a doctorate degree from Harvard University. His name was Dr. Carter G. Woodson. A book that every one of you need to read was written by Dr. Carter G. Woodson called The Miseducation of the Negro. You make sure you get that book and you read that book. It is a classic. It is not only a classic in history or a classic in education. As a psychologist, it's a classic in mental science of black people. Because many of us are being turned against our people by colleges. Does that mean you don't go? Of course not. You still have to go. Because if you don't go to college, you are trapping yourself into minimum wage for the rest of your life. Now, if there's somebody around this table who thinks that you're going to be able to live happily ever after off of minimum wage, then show me how. Because if you're going to be able to take care of a family, pay your bills, pay your car note, mortgage or rent, gas, electric, cell phone, laptop, keep food in your stomach and a roof over the head of your family, how are you going to do that on $8 an hour? It's impossible. So anyone who doesn't go to college or trade school is volunteering to live a life of poverty. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. Dr. Woodson said that Harvard University taught him to hate himself and that it took him nearly 20 years to undo the menticide that America's finest institution put in him. He started Negro History Week because he saw that what black people knew themselves to have been in history had a direct impact on how they see themselves today. We got a whole lot of religion, but we got almost no understanding of who we are as a race of people. And as the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said,